Hello again, music fans. I am back here for another music collection video. And this one was one that was a long time in coming, which is my Black Sabbath collection. The reason I hadn't shown this, because I have shown other metal legends. I've got the Priest video, the Judas Priest, the Iron Maiden, Kiss, etc. But I hadn't shown Sabbath because I was missing one album. And now that I have it, I do have their entire discography. All right. So I'm going to show the Sabbath collection. It's going to be two videos. First, it's going to be the music, and then it's going to be the DVDs, books, and other stuff that I have from the band. All right. Well, as you can see, I am wearing my Black Sabbath T-shirt right there with the first album cover. Pretty cool. And as you know, Sabbath has an extensive discography, so let's get going. First album, here we go. The self-titled Black Sabbath. This was not, in fact, the how I originally listened to it. How I did was with the CD. Okay, this is the one that I've had for for a long time. This is the original Warner Brothers issue of the CD, and then years later I found this at a flea market. And I bought it only as a curiosity because when I bought it, vinyl had not yet had its resurgence. The way it has now. Okay, and this is not this is the version that does not have the gatefold, because those of you that do have that vinyl, it opens up with a gatefold and there's a cross in the gatefold. All right, so of course for these albums, for these Aussie era albums, anybody that is a halfway decent metal fan already has them, so there's no need to go into them very much. Next one, of course, is Paranoid here. And this is not the Warner Brothers issue, but rather the Castle Communications remaster. The Sabbath catalog has been remastered several times over the years. And this one was when Castle did them. You can tell which ones those are because they have the little devil right there, somewhere on the back cover. Of course, we all know this album, War Pigs, Paranoid, Iron Man. Just those three legendary songs are enough to make this album, a must-have. We continue now with Master of Reality. This is the Warner Brothers issue of the CD. Sweet Leaf, After Forever, Children of the Grave are on this one. Into the Void. Like I said, if you're a metal fan, you already have these. Black Sabbath Volume 4, also the Warner Brothers issue. Pretty good album, It's not talked about as much as those first three, but also a lot of stuff, great stuff here. Snowblind, Saint Vitus Dance. Then possibly my favorite Aussie era album, which is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Also the Warner Brothers issue, not reissue, the original CD issue of this. This is one that I really do want to have a upgrade to either a reissued CD or the reissued vinyl, because I really want to have this one with a better sound. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, of course, the title track, National Acrobat, the Cyber Cadabra, a lot of some rather progressive elements started to come in here, and of course, as you know, Rick Wakeman from Yes guests on the album on keyboards. Sabotage. This is the Castle Communications reissue with that weird cover of them being reflected in the mirror in that strange way. Hole in the Sky, A Symptom of the Universe are the tracks that are on this. Winding down the Aussie era, we have Technical Ecstasy. Don't listen to this one much. It's not as heavy, and let's say the truth, it's not as good as the ones that I previously showed. This is also a Castle Communications reissue. Backstreet Kids, Gypsy, Rock and Roll Doctor are some of the tracks here. And the last of the original Aussie era, we have A Never Say Die with the title track, Johnny Blade, There we go. Again, this one I also don't listen to it much. As you saw, I have, the only one I have on vinyl for that is the first one, Black Sabbath. Now we move on to the Ronnie James Dio era. Who doesn't love that? And of course, the classic album, Heaven and Hell. Also, the Castle remaster. Everything here is totally stellar. Neon Nights and Children of the Sea, Lady Evil, the title track. And this is one that I do have on vinyl. There we go. This is the vinyl that I bought from way back in the day. As you can see, it's in a lot of ringwear, pretty bad shape, and in fact, it's kind of falling apart. But since I have the remastered CD, I'm okay. This right here that you see is not a sticker. It's actually printed on the album. This is my Mexican issue of this vinyl put out by Polygram. And back in the day, they put this, they inserted, this is not a sticker. It's printed right there on the cover. Rock, it says right there. I mean, rather, it says La Cultura del Rock, which means the culture of rock. All right. Next album, of course, with Dio, Mob Rules, also the Castle Communications remaster. Everything here is stellar. Love this album. By a hair, I think I prefer this one over Heaven and Hell, but just, depending on what day of the week, I might change my mind any day. Mob Rules, and also I do have it on vinyl here. And the curious thing here, because this is again a Mexican edition put out by Polygram, and check out the back cover if you can. The titles are translated into Spanish. Okay, so somebody did that by hand. Made that drawing by hand of the titles. I absolutely love this cover here by the Brothers Hildebrandt. Really great cover. Great album. Then we go over to the slight, before that, of course, we have a Live Evil here on CD. Also the Castle Communications remaster. Here, this is a single disc set. There are editions of this that are 2 CDs. And this is one case where you do have to mind a bit what edition you get, because some editions don't have the complete recording. Some of them are missing the track Fluff, which is a small piece, a small instrumental piece at the very end of the album. And some of them don't have Ronnie James Dio's in-between song Banter. All right, they edited some of that out to be able to fit it onto a single CD. But there are 2 CD editions of Live Evil. I do also have it on vinyl. Let me take it out of the sleeve so you can get a better look here. We have, this is the vinyl that I've had since the 80s. Still in pretty good shape. There is the gatefold. Moving on now to the very brief Ian Gillan era with Born Again. Very underrated. Well, I'm not going to say underrated because in recent years this has become more and more appreciated. Also the Castle Communications remaster. There we go. Now, if you look at those, the back cover there, and I'm going to show you the vinyl, which I also have. Here, we have a Bev Bevan from ELO on the picture, even though on the vinyl of this. This is also my Mexican edition put out by Polygram and Vertigo. You have that back cover, and you have Bill Ward right there, whom I believe did play on this album. His playing is present on this album, but during the tour, they used that Bevan with that the Baby Devil cover. There we go. And here, back in the day, I think I mentioned this before. Back in the day, here in Mexico, and they probably did this in other countries as well. They would translate the song titles somewhere on the vinyl, and here in these little blue letters, those are the titles translated into Spanish. They don't do that anymore. When a CD comes out, it comes out, with the original language all intact on the song titles. All right, so now let's move on to, Sabbath was in a very uncertain times back then. When Ian Gillan left again to reunite with Deep Purple, so Sabbath was kind of left in limbo. Tony Iommi was going to make a solo album, but it later morphed into a Black Sabbath album. Here we have Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi with Seven Star. Pretty good album. Here with Glenn Hughes on vocals. Also the Castle Communications remaster. Some pretty good songs here. No Stranger to Love, which is a ballad, was made into a video. We then move on to the Tony Martin era. Glenn Hughes didn't last long. Apparently, Tony Iommi claimed that he wasn't really doing well on stage because of his drug problems or something. Here we have Tony Martin, who was to stay with the band and be a faithful member for many years with the Eternal Idol. Eric Singer of Kiss appears here and also here. Okay, the Eternal Idol, again, really good tracks. If you're not familiar with Tony Martin era of Black Sabbath, I recommend that you give it a chance. Because I know some people, it's either Ozzy or maybe the Dio era, and they forget everything else. But there's some really good stuff in the Tony Martin discs. The Eternal Idol. After this came the really good Headless Cross, which I only have on cassette. And this is one that I really, really do need to upgrade to either vinyl or CD. A lot of great tracks here. Also Tony Martin on vocals. One of my absolute favorite Sabbath albums, though many people don't like it because it's not that heavy, but there's a really great songwriting here, which is Black Sabbath, A Tear. I love this entire album through and through. Anno Mundi, The Lawmaker, Jerusalem, The Sabbath Stones, everything, front to back. Tyr is the Norse god of war. So this has kind of like it's not a concept album, but there is a theme to it, a bit of a Norse theme to it. Love the songwriting here. I think this is the Tony Martin's best album, and one of Sabbath's bests. We now go here with, that was 1990, by the way, with A Tear, and this is 94 here with Cross Purposes. Another Tony Martin era album, also pretty damn good. And let me see, excuse me here. I had my dates mixed up. Before this came this in 92, which is when Dio got back with Sabbath and they took out Dehumanizer. All right, very good album, very heavy, very reminiscent of what Dio himself was doing with his own band at the time here. Okay, a much heavier sound than what he did when he started with Dio, or the stuff that he did with Sabbath in Heaven, Hell, or Mob Rules. Okay, but apparently the reunion didn't last very long, only this album. And then came, they again reunited with um, Tony Martin, put out this, very good album. And then came Forbidden, which is, there's some good moments here, and I really try to like this album, but it's not very good. Tony Martin on vocals again, and but there's just nothing memorable here. There's a horrible song here that includes some lyrics sung by Ice-T. I don't have anything against rap or Ice-T, but he should not never have been in here. Black Sabbath, Forbidden. And then it seemed that Sabbath was over, and there would be no more studio albums or anything for that matter. But then they reunited with Ozzy again for the reunion live album. This is a 2 CD set with a best of their first 6 albums. Pretty good. There's also a DVD of this, and I'm going to show that in the second video. So in the second video, I'm going to show all the video and books. Black Sabbath reunion, pretty good stuff. Here it does have the original lineup of Tony Iommi, Ozzy Osbourne, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. Then another hiatus, and we got this live album, which is Past Lives. Now, you're wondering, what the hell is this? This album is in fact a reissue of a sort of a bootleg album that came out in the 70s called Live at Last. Now that album was, I believe, never sanctioned by the Sabbath management, so it kind of came out kind of a bootleg, but it was reissued here along with another show. So there's 2 concerts here. There's a 2 CD set, of stuff from the 70s. Though this one came out in 2002 on Ozzy Osbourne's own label that he had at the time, which is called Divine Recordings. There's the original lineup. 2 CD set. And after another long hiatus, Black Sabbath surprises us with a new studio album, which would be their last. This is called 13. All right, and this has Ozzy, Geezer, and Tony Iommi, but no Bill Ward. All right, he had a falling out with them, regarding some, I suppose, monetary issues. Don't want to get into that too much. Anyway, this is a pretty good album, very doomy, really good album, and this is a special edition which has another second CD with 3 bonus tracks. 13. There you go. And then, as of the making of this video, the last Sabbath album, which is called The End. This is the one that I was missing, and the one that I had not, that caused this video from so much delay. All right, because whenever I saw that, of course it's been out since 2017, but whenever I saw it, it was always very pricey. But I was waiting for the price to go down a bit before I bought it. So I finally have it, The End, 2 CD set. There are many editions of this, many versions. One that has the CD and the DVD, the CD and the Blu-ray. Another that's a box set. It's got a book, with, of course, several prices. This is just a very normal one, the 2 CD set. There's a track list if you want to see it. There we go. The End by Black Sabbath. Their last tour as Black Sabbath, because Ozzy continues to tour. Well, those are all the Sabbath albums per se. I'm going to now show some compilation albums, of which I have 3. The first one, like the aforementioned Live at Last, which was kind of a bootleg, this one also was. This is called Black Sabbath Greatest Hits. And for some reason, this is, You're wondering what's missing right there in that blurb, but there's nothing missing. It just like that. This vinyl LP came out in the 70s, but again, I believe it was without the authorization of Sabbath themselves. So I was kind of surprised when one time I saw this in a CD store back when they used to exist. And there's the track list, just the greatest hits of their Aussie era albums. Then we have another greatest hits here from Black Sabbath, the Dio years, okay, which includes 3 new studio tracks: The Devil Cried, Shadow of the Wind, and Ear in the Wall. Greatest hits of the Dio era. Really good stuff. And then this very odd. There's been a whole bunch of Sabbath compilations over the years, but it's pretty pointless for me to have all of them since I do have all the studio albums. But this one I bought just because of the oddity of it, which is it compiles the Tony Martin era. Here with 10 songs. Here with Tony Martin on vocals, Headless Cross, Guilty as Hell, Virtual Death, Evil Eye. And I really like this. I really love having this one because this is the only place that I have on CD some tracks from the Headless Cross album. There we go. And there, if you can recognize them, is the legendary Cozy Powell on the drums, who was a member of Sabbath during that era. There's a track listing. Okay. Let's look now at some tribute albums. Here we have the first of the tribute albums, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe this was the first tribute album that came out for Sabbath, which is Nativity in Black. It's got some really cool artwork, this one, on the inside. Let me just take out the booklet. There are some tarot cards right there. And who do we have here making the tribute? Biohazard, White Zombie, Megadeth. Ozzy Osbourne himself here with the band Therapy. Corrosion of Conformity, Sepultura. Bruce Dickinson with Godspeed, really good. The track right there, doing Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, really good track there. Faith No More, doing War Pigs, a live version. And then came Nativity in Black 2. Again, with some really cool illustrations. Let me take out, there's the back cover. We have Godsmack, Machine Head, Static X, Megadeth again, this time doing Never Say Die, which is a bit of a rare track. Right there, Pantera. Again, Ozzy again, Primus with Ozzy, Slayer, Monster Magnet. Let's take a look at those tarot cards because they really are cool. I believe the artist's name is Michael Kaluta, and he has done many comic books over the years. Really good style. Another tribute album here we have Eternal Masters. Some much more heavy bands here. We have Sacred Reich, Cadaver, Cannibal Corpse, Exorder. Really heavy stuff here. Eternal Masters, and then even more so here with Masters of Misery. Black Sabbath, the E-Rake tribute. This is from E-Rake Records. Cathedral is in here. Cathedral doing Sabbath, absolutely. Just for that, I must own. Sleep doing Snowblind. Godflesh, Confessor, Old Brutal Truth, Ultraviolence, some heavy stuff here. Alright, and now the last album that I will show is this one, The Many Faces of Black Sabbath. I really recommend this one. It's really, really cool. This is a 3 CD set where we have a disc. On disc one, we have stuff featuring members of Sabbath. Other bands where they have guested, or done some solo stuff. Like we got stuff from Tony Iommi, some Dio, Cozy Powell. A lot of tracks. Disc two is the songs, which are covers, which is the tribute album by several bands like Iced Earth, um, let's see, Steel Prophet, Jack Panzer, Icarus Witch, and disc three, The Legacy, which are bands that, of course, have been influenced by Black Sabbath, which is basically everybody in metal. But there's a lot of stuff here. From bands that I, quite frankly, I've never heard of. Freedom Hawk, Sasquatch, Isaac, but a really good listen here. Black Sabbath, The Many Faces of Black Sabbath. It's a 3 CD set. All right, people. Well, that's it for my Sabbath collection regarding the music. The next video will be the DVDs, some books, and a couple of magazines that I have. All right. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. So long.